the Gentlementor.
So, parenthood, huh?
So what?
Parenthood, huh?
Oh, no, fatherhood. We were talking about
Fatherhood. Not parenthood.
Fatherhood.
We do fatherhood. There's no women on this show. This is a fatherhood show, not a parenthood show.
This is a fatherhood show. It's about fathers.
Yeah. Had an interesting conversation with Kelly last night about fatherhood. It's a conversation here's a conversation I've had with 3, maybe 4 different friends of mine now.
How old is Kelly?
Kelly I think he's a year older than Jackie. Maybe the same age.
And this is his first child?
Yeah.
So he's entering into fatherhood.
Yeah,
a lot
55,
older.
56, 57.
Okay.
In that neighborhood. If somebody's going to do it, I would vote for him. He's always been extremely health conscious and taking good care of himself physically. So, yeah, he can probably hack it. I'm looking at him. You're going to be so tired.
Well, yeah, anybody can condition themselves to physically hack fatherhood, but
yeah.
Really
Okay, here's the number one shocker that I've dealt with repeated friends of mine who have become fathers.
Okay.
So here's something. If you're gonna, I'll just put this out since it's a huge subject. I don't really know where to start. Here's something that messes people up. You remember when you were a teenager how you couldn't, I don't know, you probably, at varying degrees, we don't get along with our parents anymore. It's kind of a biological imperative that's there to make us kind of move out at some point.
Right.
It kind of starts at 13 and then it kind of goes and, does what it does. So I experienced this myself, and then a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, we were at a graduation party and got into a conversation, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that. So, and then, like I said, I've had the conversation with a friend in Colorado who's just been traumatized this year because of the reality of this coming home to his heart. Mm-hmm. And I had to have the talk with Kelly last night because I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to warn you, something bad's going to happen in parenthood. And the bad thing that happens is that kid is going to hit 13. And when they do, you got 13 years to lay that groundwork. I won't quote any scripture here, but we both know I could. Or you could.
Yeah.
But just there's the biological imperative that they separate from the parent. And so it's going to happen to some extent. For all of these guys that I've talked to, this involved having a daughter. Mm-hmm. And all of these guys had this daughter, and we were so close, and we were such good friends, and we loved each other. We wanted to spend all of our time together, and then 13 happened. Yep. And then this person, who's been your closest friend and confidant, can no longer stand the sight of you.
Yes.
And every conversation you have with that person will end with you walking out of the room going, what did I say? Because you will never win. The only time you will start to win is when you have a place in the house that is your man place. And when you're in the room and the conversation starts and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck, you leave the room and go to your man place so that whatever happens, you're not involved. You can come back later and go, ooh, everything all right? But don't be there when it happens, because you will be the villain. You're going to be the bad guy. There's no way to avoid it. Now, the upside is this is a temporary condition for most people. They come back. They'll return, and you will probably have an even better relationship than you did initially. But there's going to be this patch of years that are going to be painful.
Yes.
Listen, my friend in Colorado is utterly heartbroken beside himself. Had no idea this was coming for him. And I'm like, hey, that's not the bad news. The bad news is next 7 years, this is probably what you're doing. But it will end. Tis but a season. So there's my first piece of fatherhood wisdom that I wanted to share is yes, your child will probably hate you for a brief period of time, but it's temporary. Just like we did it with our kids.
Yep.
They're doing it to us. Their kids will do it to them. It's part of the great part of life. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
Just remain calm. Find your place to hide.
That's true. And I think it's very important that new fathers know that. Thank
Yeah,
for
and you don't
sharing
have to know when you're
imparting
brand
that
new.
wisdom.
When you're taking this beautiful little girl and swinging her on the swing set and singing butterfly kisses in your head, prepare yourself. A
Right.
day will come.
Well, and when they start asking, 100 questions, why is the sky blue? Why is there water in between the lands? Why did God make this? Why are the flowers green? And you've got all those questions, and at times in those young years of childhood, being a father, the first few years of fatherhood, we're just like, can you give me a little space? And then your wish is granted at 13. They don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, and then you feel miserable about it.
Right. And then you're like, what have I done? And really, you've done nothing. And you're absolutely right. We need to be clear that I would say 9 times out of 10, it's going to happen. And it will return and better. And that you didn't do anything. More than likely, as a father, you didn't do anything to provoke it. It's normal. It's natural. It's part of the evolution.
It is biology. Yes.
It is part of the evolution process to wean your children away from them. And that's why I said it in the last, I listened to our one you released today.
Repeat it again.
I said it. I'll say it again. Parenting
For the good of all mankind.
Parenting is an 18-year-long lesson in learning to let go.
You even said that on your Instagram account.
Yes, it is. It is so important.
That's why when I saw it, I said, I've heard this.
It really starts to snowball at 13. But and then you have to go back to the different phases of parenthood. There's the what is it? Caring, training, coaching, and then friending, I think is what it is. And you're in those coaching years where in that 13 teenage years where they're starting to graduate high school and get jobs and drive and stuff like that, where you're just coaching. You're just like, hey, here's a good idea. No, I don't like that idea. Okay, cool. And then you move past that. And then when they they get out of college or whatever, that you become their friend and you become back to that whole thing again. So that's the natural cycle. I think that's what we have to help new fathers understand. But I want to go back to what you were saying about when you said you got to have your man place. And I don't mean that place. I mean a man cave or some place to go. And I think that is huge. I think that would probably save a lot of fathers and a lot of marriages probably. If the man, and here's the thing too, and I'm sorry, I got so many thoughts going through my head because, okay, first of all.
Yeah, would you stop talking? I'm trying to do a podcast here.
I'm gonna get all jammed up.
Go.
So you got to have a place to go because number one, it cools you down. You don't want to be there when that happens. Like you said, you just want to, wait, did I say something? Don't talk to me, whatever. Hey, cool. I'm going to go over here and close the door. Now, granted, not every father probably has the ability to walk into another room. Some of them probably live in a 2-bedroom apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment. But I think it's important that you've got to have some place to go.
Yeah.
If you
have it picked out ahead of time. Don't wait until the emergency.
Right. No, you got to have it, whether it's a picnic table down the street, whether it's the brick wall on the side of the house, on the side of the garage, so there's no window and no one can see you and you can just sit there on the curb, whatever. I think you have to have that. And, and as you grow older, you get those places where okay, I've got to.
You'll find them.
You'll find them. Or I've built them. I built a room here. I've got a room. I painted it. It's got my stuff in it. I can go away. I can close everything off.
I do it every time I walk into a room. It's like, I could escape to there if I had to. If this gets ugly, I'm going in there. Is that a shower curtain? I'll be in the shower.
You know all the exits and all the places to hide. To get away from people. And I think it's true. And I think not only from the fatherhood perspective, but also as a man being married in a relationship, you're also going to have an opportunity to escape and get away. I think the same thing for the wife. She's going to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think Peter Cetera said it best. Everybody needs a little time away, right?
I've heard her say.
Was that Chicago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was the next line.
I wanted to make sure. I said
hard for me to say I'm sorry.
Yes. I wanted to make sure. I don't use a musical reference that often, especially in my presence.
I love it. I love it. Bring it. You're talking my language.
I have to be very confident if I'm going to bring a musical reference into this conversation. You know me.
Bring it on. Yeah, I was sitting. Well, we started having this conversation last night in the car because we had time to kill, as we were driving a long time. So we were talking about it, and it's like that to me is the biggest thing about fatherhood as an experience is there's just nothing to prepare you for any of it. And the stuff that
Right.
everybody wants to prepare you for is the stuff they've already prepared your wife for. They tell you the same stuff. It's like you as a dad need to have some different information. This is one piece of information that would have saved at least 4 people in my life a big heartbreak.
Yep.
Was to know it's just going to happen. It'll be over. It's all part of life. You didn't do it.
Yep.
You know, you can certainly exacerbate the problem by not knowing that it's coming and not knowing what to do when it hits, because you'll get suckered into every argument. You will be
Yep.
the cause of it. And
I remember when our daughter was younger, and my wife, of course, you know how Deborah is. She's lovey-dovey and spoken and wants to hear the words back when she says it to you. And I remember she got to that stage where our daughter did not say "I love you" back, and Deborah was just, she was devastated. Whenever she was like, she don't say "I love you" back. She won't even say "you too." She won't say anything. I keep saying it, and I said. And I had a hunch. This was my first child.
lucky you.
And I had a hunch that, hey, this is going to go away. And I think I shared that youth pastor story that I talked to you about. I asked a group of girls in a youth group why girls are so mean at the ages of like 13 to 16. And they were like, we honestly don't know, but we can clearly, and multiple of them said this, we clearly wake up one day and go, why are we so mean? And they stop being mean. It's like something in their brain just clicks and they realize, gosh, I've been horrible for the past years, and it just stops. So anyway, and so on that hunch, I told Deborah, I said, just keep saying it. Just keep saying it. Even if she doesn't say it back, don't ever stop saying it. And now it flows the other direction more than it does. You know, our daughter's always coming in. I love you guys. I love you guys. Love you guys. Love you guys.
Here's another great thing to bring up is how, and this seems ridiculous because it doesn't seem possible, but how devastatingly these little things in your life can hurt you.
Yeah.
I remember Isabel when she was probably, man, I'm thinking 4 or 5. Little. Just old enough to like talk and put ideas together.
Yeah.
And she was sitting talking to Jackie one time. She was like, I wish Clint was my dad because he's not fat. And it was like, I'm like, man. I mean,
said that to Jackie? Said that
no,
to you?
about me, yeah. To
About
Jackie
you.
about
Of
me.
course,
I
of course.
overheard
And
the
then she told you that.
conversation.
Oh, you overheard it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it's like you wouldn't think that a little tiny cute thing like that could just,
yeah.
they can devastate you. They can say some of the hardest, truest stuff to you, and you will just go,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. There's another thing you may not be prepared for as a father. Is they may not be intentional, but man, can they can hit sometimes. Be prepared for that.
I would add another thing in addition to that. I would add something that you are not prepared for as a father. And I would almost say, well, I don't know. I'm about to see this probably as my son. You know, he's 13 now, so I'm going to start to watch this happen, and I need to be prepared for it. Hopefully, I'll listen to this again and encourage myself. As raising a daughter, as you know, as they get older, you have to relinquish those some father duties and some responsibilities to other people in her life. You know, and I think about my friend Jessie, who was Lexi's youth pastor. She began coming home talking about, you know, the wisdom that he would get, how she would look up to him and she admired him. And I'm just like, oh, but I'm your dad. I'm your father. I'm the one who sacrificed lives and blood and money for you. And I realize, because we have to go back to the whole thing, we cannot do it alone. We have to realize that as our children grow, they need more perspective. They start to realize, but here's the thing, they're going to look for those people based on what they've learned from you as a father. Fortunately for me, I looked at Jesse and go, yeah, I trust him. I do the same thing for him. He's not someone that I would be like, why are you listening to this jerk? He has no idea what he's talking about. But I see that based on, she found that stuff based on the fact she looks at you the same way, you know, and she trusts you. She's been trying to pick out a song for the past 17 hours and been absolutely driving us bananas. And finally, I was like, "What? Ask Doug. Doug will tell you."
Oh, that makes me
long.
feel so much better because I did that same thing to you this week.
What about the socket wrench?
No, just the car issue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I got a text from you.
we haven't repaired. I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm not telling you to go ask him to fix your car. But when my perspective is shot, I said the person I look most forward to talking to in the world is Mark Walker. Because I can say, here's what I'm going on through, and he won't tell me what to do, but somehow he helps me figure out what the right thing to do is. And I said, I don't know what to do for you. I don't know anything about cars. I don't have money to give you. I understand your frustration. We've lived with used cars our whole lives. This is part of the deal. Something goes wrong, and you go, okay, the great thing to do would be to get rid of this now rather than investing money in it. But sometimes that's not an option you have because you ain't got no more money. You've only got enough to fix it and get through a couple more months. Yeah. So, yeah, I did that to you, but...
No, well, this is funny because today she texted me. She goes, "You have a socket wrench?" And I said, "I sure do." She goes, "Can I borrow it?" I said, "Of course." And that was it. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Am I supposed to mail it to her? How do I know which one to mail it to her? Do I mail her the metric or the? So anyway, I'll find.
Well, I gave her.
I'll just probably have her come over this weekend, and we'll take the battery out and reset the computer.
All she's got to do is disconnect the ground.
Oh, just the lead?
Disconnect the ground for 10 minutes. You pull the light switch on twice. It resets the computer. You hook it back up and start and see if it fixed it. Oh, it was a last ditch effort before she goes and buys a new computer for it. Okay. So yeah, that was all it was.
Yeah, that should take moments, and I can
10
meet her over to
10 minutes.
Okay.
According to the instructions, that's what it said.
So yeah, back to that. I think that's the thing is we have to realize that as they get older, we start to relinquish some of those fatherly responsibilities, and hopefully there are people that we trust. And again, I think they're going to pick those people based on how they view us as a father. So anyway, I know that's true for girls. I think probably. I don't know if it's even more so than for boys yet because I'm waiting to see. You hadn't raised one. I have
zero.
So,
I got zero experience on boys.
I've got one, and he looks. He's got his basketball coaches and stuff that he looks at and admires for their skill. And I'm like, hey, great. I can help you with your slap shot, but I can't help you with your free throw. I'm just not that skilled. Yeah. But I think that's something too.
I think it's that growing up realization. Your kids don't want to hear it from you. You come to that teenage years and they don't believe you, and you don't know anything. It. So if you've already helped them to establish a relationship with a known quantity outside, you've got somewhere safe for them to go where they feel like, well, at least I'm not listening to Dad. Right. You always said work smarter, not harder. I think that about parenting is like you work smart and not by heart. You want to love your kid, but you don't want to get wrapped up in their emotional stuff. It's your job as the parent to kind of be able to stand outside of that and go, okay, we're going to calm down. This is how we get through problems. Yeah. We start by keeping our emotions in check. We don't get all wound up, and then we think through this rationally and logically.
Right.
When my children started listening to music that I didn't necessarily think was nice or appropriate for them, I also understood that the worst thing for me to do was to go, this is a bunch of trash. I want you to listen to this again. What did I do? I went, I know this game. Ooh, this is cool. I kind of like this. Yeah. You want to talk about music disappearing fast? Gone. And I learned that lesson early, that you can, if you think out ahead of things, you can kind of get ahead of them and you can kind of work them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get friends that I got friends that my kids look up to and they admire and they trust. So if they don't want to trust me and they don't want to hear my advice, I can send them one of these guys that know they're going to get the same thing. They think they're getting brand X, they're getting the same message.
And here's the thing. You spent 13 years creating a benchmark in your kid's mind for that kind of advice. And so now they go out and look for it, and unbeknownst to them, I think subconsciously, they check to make sure that decision or that advice fits in that benchmark before they'll apply it, hopefully. Now, granted, not everybody makes smart decisions.
Not everybody, not all the time.
We all do dumb things. But I think in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to important things that they're looking for advice for, I think that you spend all that time as a father of a young child, creating that benchmark in their lives that they're going to measure that up to.
Well,
So
one
that's a
thing that
bonus.
I accidentally got right because everything else I got wrong, and that's the great pitfall. Is first of all that nobody tells you
I
about
don't
this
think
stuff,
that's true.
and secondarily that anybody thinks that there's a right answer. There are wrong answers.
That's wrong. That's stinking thinking. Yeah,
There are lots of wrong answers, but there are lots of right answers too.
there is lots of right answers.
And so, you don't, that's one of the obnoxious things about parenting advice is that everybody wants to tell you, don't do this, don't do that. It's not, it's good advice maybe, but it's not very good mentoring.
Right.
The Gentlementor.